The second Donald Trump assassination attempt is a wake-up call for everyone. For the second time in the space of 65 days, there's been an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
With shots being fired on Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach at an armed gunman who is now detained and alive. Before I start this video, let me say that I'm a 19-year-old guy with no political narrative to impose online. Rather, I'm a teenager trying to work out how the world works. This phenomenon has completely captivated me for many reasons, as I think it's symbolic of something much greater than just two lone incels on separate occasions with ARs on the loose. So stick around for my take on that. But to start off, here's everything we know so far. At 1:30 p.m. on Sunday the 15th of September, gunshots rang out across the Trump International Golf Club, West Palm Beach. The Secret Service detail having spotted a rifle sticking through the fence on the side of the golf course 300 to 500 yards away from Donald Trump himself. As part of standard procedure, a unit had advanced one hole ahead of Trump to clear the area and secure the perimeter. It was in this process that one of them spotted the gunman's rifle poking through the fence. The gunman fled the scene and was spotted by a bystander who had the presence of mind to take a picture of his car number plate and report it to the local police, who were then able to track the car and send out a squad to eventually intercept it 38 miles from the golf course. Why he was able to get that far, I have no clue. The suspect left the AR and 2 bags plus a GoPro on the scene and is now in custody, alive and identified as 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth. After inspecting Ruth's ex, you can see that his whole account is devoted to helping Ukraine fight against Russia, with the 58-year-old even having travelled there to help out himself. Multiple of his tweets saying he has thousands of men ready to sign up and encouraging others to do so. Ruth is also clearly proud to be an American, constantly wearing clothes with the American flag on it, and his bio even reading, "I feel lucky to have been born in America with freedom and opportunity and hope that I do not waste such a valuable thing to do more and take less." His account's now banned, but you can see him in videos talking about Ukraine, and what's super funny is that an actual important piece of evidence as to the type of character he is comes from Gideon trolling him in a video here.
I don't care if you do paper or not, I'm looking for revolutionaries. I'm looking for people who want to take this whole system down.
Bro, I'm a veteran, like, do you need me?
What kind of veteran are you?
Bro, I served in Nuketown.
Well, I think it's better to serve and fight in the powers over the system.
I've seen a lot of people using the fact that Ruth was so pro-Ukraine as a way of pushing certain political narratives. I have absolutely nothing to say about that, but detached from Ukraine altogether, I'll say the obvious. It takes a certain type of person to be so willing to go and fight for another country in a time where no one even wants to fight for their own. You can see in the video of him, he refers to it like a movie with good and bad guys.
Why I'm here? To me, you know, a lot of the conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, you know, any movie we ever watched, this is definitely evil against good.
I see what he's saying, but I think this is pretty indicative of the type of black and white mindset he could have had going into the Trump assassination attempt. And that leads me on to the first thing I want to talk about. Polarization of our society thanks to social media apps like X, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok. Regardless of the reasons for these last two assassinations, I think it's important that we stop and think about the impact of what I'd call our verbal menu that we choose to use. There are always going to be certain buzzwords that get used more than others, but as soon as we become desensitized towards words like racist, Marxist, fascist, communist, and threat to democracy, there becomes no way of distinguishing between genuine communists and people who you just disagree with. There becomes no way of distinguishing between genuine racists or someone you just disagree with. Plenty of people far smarter than I have articulated this point in extended pieces, but I think it's important to bring it up once again, especially when there is more evidence with this shooter that would point towards someone following that sort of incel hero arc of picking up an AR and eliminating the threat to democracy because this whole situation's just like a movie, bro, and I'm fighting for the goody rebels, just like Luke Skywalker would have done. I'm not attributing this to the opposing political party proclaiming to be the goodies either, because both parties do. And in fact, from what I've read, Ruth voted Trump in 2016. Rather, I'm attributing this to the increased bipartisan justification of completely ruling out anyone else's opinion other than your own, as it's so hateful and criminal. Again, this is coming from a 19-year-old who isn't trying to take sides. I don't know whether Trump is or isn't a racist, fascist threat to democracy. I don't know whether Kamala Harris is a communist that has slept her way to the vice presidency, but what I do know is that there's a stunning lack of substantial, articulate discourse for both arguments, showing that even if any of these claims from either side were true, the current shallow, haiku-length announcements are mostly just from grifters trying to slam dunk on their opponents. On X, 10% of the users make up 92% of the noise. Tweeting nuanced thoughts into the void doesn't yield any reward, and the people that would find any satisfaction from doing so wouldn't download the app in the first place. Ask yourself, why have you downloaded Twitter? Even from a pop culture perspective, I know plenty of girls that have Twitter just so they can follow Love Island gossip when it's on. Controversy and shock content is baked into the unwritten contract of downloading the app. And when everyone is stuck on the hedonic treadmill of OnlyFans tit drop videos and school fights showing up on their timeline, there's no way out of it. Creators are faced with a prisoner's dilemma where the first person to jump off the treadmill loses all the gains they'd made. It's also, by the way, why I think Substack integrating more and more video features paired with their recommendations tab is the worst thing that they could possibly do. But more on that another time. Something again that's maybe or maybe not directly connected with this assassination attempt, but a topic I want to get off my chest regardless, is the ramifications for a society that's disconnected from reality. When we spend our days chronically online, it not only informs our reality, but it becomes our reality. If you know nothing different to the people, ideas, and trends you're seeing online, the real versions don't particularly matter. If TikTok tells you it's trendy to rot in bed, but your old friendships, hobbies, and pursuits are disintegrating into oblivion, it doesn't really matter because you're at home commenting on videos relevant to how you're feeling, with thousands of other people agreeing with you, and 3 square meals a day from your parents keeping you alive, whilst the dopamine hit of porn keeps you sedated from an urge to do anything more with your life. But the online world doesn't just strip away our drive to build and create things that manifest as businesses or inventions in real life. It also strips us of our morality. The further detached something is from you, the harder it is intuitively to feel any responsibility. The classic entry-level philosophy argument comes of Peter Singer getting you to imagine you're walking by a shallow pond and see a drowning toddler. Do you have a moral obligation to save the child, even if it means ruining your clothes? It seems so, he says. His argument being that therefore you're equally obligated to help save people dying due to absolute poverty by donating to effective aid agencies across the world. Whether this is the correct moral framework or not, it's clear that we're all naturally more skeptical towards making the effort of helping other people further separated from ourselves, even if it is to little cost of our own. Instead of a child drowning, take maybe walking past a clothes shop with in the back a kid crying, sewing a t-shirt, their hand bloodied from the faulty machine they're using, and their childhood stripped of any joy or adventure. Instead, their day spent in service of creating these clothes they're never going to wear. Now, this is clearly a horrible image, and I'm sure walking past this shop, if you didn't do something about it, you'd at least refrain from buying any of their products. Yet you and I both order things from Amazon, Shein, and Temu every day. On the internet, you're also able to hide behind a keyboard and say what you want without any consequences. But also, you're talking about figures that, for all you're concerned, are as real as Harry Potter or Ronald McDonald. Bad ideas that sound good but don't actually work can metastasize, poisoning our societies from within. You see with Trump's second assassination attempt that Ruth had a GoPro with him, and I'm sure even with the almost guaranteed death ahead of him, the allure of showing the internet on his GoPro the takeout of the former president would have heavily contributed to him deciding to rock up at the West Palm Beach Golf Club. So plenty of trade-offs to the internet, and I'm not advocating for a step back into a life of monkshood and wax tablets, but I think a fundamental shift of incentives needs to take place to gradually heal this polarization of society in service of this culture war porn we keep feeding ourselves. Jonathan Haidt and Lex Friedman discussed in a podcast about a ranking system where AI determines how much of a provocative arsehole someone is and gives them a rating, with least shitposty accounts being shown more than the ones using 100 exclamation marks and dropping F-bombs every other word. There are plenty of problems with this suggestion, but I love the intention behind it, and I think we should really be probing into ideas like this more. One thing about this whole ordeal that's really spooked me is how quickly the first assassination attempt was forgotten. I don't know if it's an age thing or the fact that I'm quite a sentimental person that tries really hard to take note of significant events in my life, but I was absolutely obsessed with the first assassination attempt on Trump. Not in a perverted, weird way of wanting there to be gore and chaos, but just from an acceptance that the almost successful attempt on a former president's life is a once, or now twice, in a lifetime experience. I'm sure when Reagan was almost successfully assassinated, it sent shockwaves around the world for weeks or months to come. And I know that many will recognize the name John Hinckley Jr., whereas I'm sure in years to come, almost no one will know the likes of Thomas Crooks and Ryan Wesley Ruth. The news cycle moves so fast, and I feel like it's at a point where events less crazy than these get brought into the limelight unfairly when they never would have pre-24-hour news cycles. It's necessary now because networks again have the incentive to feed the cycle and justify their 24-hour coverage. This might be a super nutty concept and it's something I've kept to myself, but I have a theory that we will or have already reached a point of historical events no longer unfolding from proportional reaction from our population, but relative to how primed they are for chaos based on how lacking or packed the recent gossip has been. So if people's appetites get primed enough in demand for more action, they'll seek it out by over or underreacting subconsciously to different stories. Anyway, let me know if this is nutty, but it's just a thought that I hope is wrong. All in all, I'm so fucking disappointed in all of you adults who keep preaching about stupid young woke Gen Z kids who are crying about being misgendered and striking from school in the name of saving the planet from climate change. There are two reasons this perpetual narrative works. One, because it's partly true, and two, because it distracts from the incompetent adults that have coddled my generation to make us this sensitive, designed apps whose currency is earned through sowing seeds of division with provocative rhetoric and misleading statements, borrowed money that we are going to have to try and pay off for years to come, inflated the housing market to the point of a home being 6 to 8 times an annual salary, and pursued political election with the lack of chasing any clear policy at all in case it could be seen as controversial and therefore risk electoral loss. I don't know how the next decades are going to unfold, but I know two things. One, that disgusting things like this are sadly going to keep happening if there isn't significant healing of our divide. And two, they will fall on the shoulders of the next generation to take action in brave, difficult and honourable ways to turn the ship around. Not by crawling onto a roof with an AR-15, not by striking from school every day, chanting and holding placards, not by learning how to manipulate girls to work for your CAMS business to fund your new sports car, not by reducing an entire religion down to all being terrorists, but with a connection to the physical world, away from echo chambers and in a desperate pursuit of the truth. Not your truth or my truth, but the fundamental tenets underpinning our civilization that both sides of the political spectrum have eroded these last years.